ladies. I am so excited. My name is Katina Barnes, and I am the founder and executive director of Butterfly Village. Butterfly Village is a nonprofit organization designed to cultivate change in the lives of women and girls. We do that through an array of services. Our signature service and program is She Can STEM Academy. Virtual people, hello! How are you? This is our third year that we have done our summer STEM experience. And again, this is very different. The first year, it was all on site. We had a packed house. And then last year, what happened? COVID pandemic. And we were virtual. But this year, it's looking a little different. So they said we can come out just a little bit. So we have some people on site and some people who are virtual. Again, welcome. You are in for a treat today. She Can STEM Academy is an academy for girls beginning in middle school. And what we do, we just simply expose you to STEM. Who knows what does STEM mean? Tell me, what does STEM mean?
Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Absolutely. Now, sometimes when people hear that, they kind of get like this. Ooh, that's scary. No, not in the village. The village really wants to expose you to STEM careers and all the great things that you can do as a girl, as a woman, to make change in the community. If you notice, there are mostly men in the field. We're going to change that because girls can STEM too. Right? The reason why we use She Can STEM Academy because we want you to know that you can make a difference. Say, I can.
I can.
Louder. I can.
I can.
That's right. You can STEM. So by hanging out with She Can STEM Academy, it is an 8-week program. It starts as an 8-week program, and it's 4 different cycles. You can hang out with us for a little over a year. And by the time you're done, you can become a student STEM ambassador. And you can represent the academy, and you can go talk to other girls about STEM and all the great things that you're learning. You are connected with STEM professionals all over the world because we're virtual, right? We have young ladies who are in California right now. We have girls who are in Georgia right now. We have girls who are in Maryland right now. So you can represent them and all the girls who are coming under you to say, you can STEM. Before we start give to the next presenter, we are in an amazing space, right? This is called Code Ninjas Virginia Beach. I would like to thank them for allowing Butterfly Village and the Academy to be here today. This is a cool place where students can come and learn how to code while building their own video games. How many of you like video games? I do too, some of them. So this is a place that you can come as often as you like, right? There's a fee though, okay? Your parents can pay, and you can come as often as you like and learn how to code and make your own video games. So I want to thank them for allowing the Academy to be here today. So I am going to turn it over to Code Ninjas, and they are going to tell you a little about what they do, show you some things that they give to their students, and hopefully you can become interested in Code Ninjas.
My name is Kyla. I've met a few of you before. I'm a former intern at the Butterfly Village. And I'm 20. I turned 21 later this year. I'm currently I'm a mechanical engineering student. That's what I study at TCC. I transferred to ODU in the fall. let's see. I got into engineering my high school year, my freshman high school year. What was my driving force to entering engineering was the Titanic. How many of you guys know the Titanic? I have a bit of a dorky story about why I was interested in the Titanic, but it's because when it sank, there was a design flaw. You know how on a ship they have like sealed doors, you're supposed to close them in case you ever spring a leak, and they're supposed to keep the boat afloat still. But the fact that these cabins, they were letting in water and air. They were not airtight like they should have been. So for me, it's a challenge. Why did the Titanic sink? I need to figure out why it sinks and how to improve it. So that's my mission, and I'll turn it over to Claire.
Hi everybody, my name is Sensei Claire. I work here at Code Ninjas. I've worked here since about 2019. I am 19 actually. And I go to UVA. I'm going into my second year at UVA where I'm studying chemistry and astronomy. I've always kind of been interested in astronomy. I've always loved the planet Venus. Little weird story, I always tried to do all my school projects on Venus. And this summer I've done some STEM research. I've been working on astrochemistry. So I've been using Python and coding to detect molecules in far-out star systems. And we are going that the programming that I use in my summer research is what I learned here at Code Ninjas. Code Ninjas helped me get into the research that I'm in right now, and it's helping me to realize what I want to do in STEM. So Code Ninjas, welcome here to Code Ninjas. Right now we're in our dojo. Here at Code Ninjas, we do a variety of different coding activities. We teach coding through video game development. We use a belt system where students move through white belt all the way to black belt, depending on what level their coding is and how they're doing on their path. We do some problem solving, critical thinking, STEM skills. We have some robots that kids also get to build. So we try to create a fun social environment where kids can meet like-minded people and learn to code all in one. So what we do here, we have a bunch of different coding languages that we cover. Most of our curriculum is in JavaScript. We have a little bit of Python. We do a camp and we do a belt in Lua, which is the Roblox coding language. We have a camp in Minecraft. We have how to become a YouTuber, and even more. So we're going to cover a couple coding definitions just for fun.
Yes. So we're going to play a little mini game as it were. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. If you have the answer, if you know the answer, raise your hand. I will give you candy as a prize. Okay? So
We're good?
you guys can you hear me back there? Okay.
So our first question, programming. Does anybody have any idea what programming might be as a definition?
Go ahead.
Go for it.
Putting something together, like building something.
Yeah, that's about right. So programming.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say different types of code to those.
Okay.
Yeah,
You're right.
right on. So program is creating a sequence of instructions, actually doing the coding to make a computer do something. It depends, it can change based on what coding language you're using and what you want to make the computer do. Excellent.
Let's go over here. Any of you ladies over here want to answer? You were making eye contact with me. You got the answer. Come on. Come on, you can do it.
good time here in our dojo.
So our next presenter, I am so happy to introduce a young lady who has been very supportive of Butterfly Village. She is so knowledgeable about her craft. She is a STEM professional. How many of you have been to the doctor sometime this year? Okay, all right. We know what doctors do, right? But do we know what they go through to get to where they are? Oftentimes, no. So I'm not gonna read her long bio. She's gonna talk about herself, her journey, and her life working as a STEM professional. All right, let's welcome Dr. Nicole Donaldson. If you could give her your undivided attention. She has a presentation that will be pulled up, and she's gonna give you some good information. I enjoy talking to I call her Doc. I enjoy talking to Doc a lot. Does she look like a doctor that you've seen? Not really, right? She looks like she's about 14.
Not for a long time.
So give your undivided attention to Dr. Donaldson.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Ms. Katina, for having me. It's truly an honor to be able to be here. So when I was preparing my presentation, I didn't want you guys to be bored, all those PowerPoints and clicking through slides and reading and all that. I want to tell you guys my story, the good sides, the bad sides, because we all know in life things can truly happen that don't necessarily go the way that we intend. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I want you guys to interact. If you guys have questions, raise your hand and ask me, because I can talk to you all day. But if I don't know what's in your head and what specific questions you may have, this is not going to really benefit you. My goal today is to let you guys know that whatever you want to do, whoever you want to be, it is possible. Regardless of what you might hear, regardless of what you might think, where you may have come from, what somebody told you, what you even believe about yourself, whatever you want to do is possible. I've had my hiccups and detours, and I'm telling you, all of that is possible, and I needed all of that to help me get to doing what I'm doing today, which is my purpose and is what I love. So I'm going to walk you guys through my story, and I'm being fully transparent. You guys can ask me anything. I kind of believe that I have to tell you what I've experienced, and if you can learn from my pain or learn from the upsides of my life, it just meant that it wasn't wasted. I learned from it, but if you guys can learn from it too, you should. And if it's something too personal and I don't feel comfortable, I'll tell you, but I'll answer almost anything. All right, you can flip the slide. So this is about my journey. So I'm from Chesapeake. My parents still live in the same house that I grew up in. And that is the 4-year-old me. And that's the 18-year-old me. I went to Southwestern Elementary. I am the youngest of 3 kids. My brother is a general surgeon and my sister is a librarian. She doesn't like blood, so she did the right thing. I went to Southwestern Elementary. I went to middle school at Western Branch Middle. And then in high school was when I realized that I had this love for science and for math. I had to do English because we have to, but my love was in science and math. And I had 2 teachers actually. One was Miss Ford, the other was Miss Lilienthal. And between the 2 of them, they kind of kindled and helped stoke my love for science. And I was good at math, and it kind of just all went together. So I told my mom, I think I want to be a doctor. So she found anything she could in the city, in the area, to get me involved in, which she didn't realize what she was doing. She knew what she was doing, but that had such a tremendous impact on me. So I'm mentioning that now because when the hard times came, I had to remember all of that to kind of help me stick to it. This was not a straight shot for me. I had some detours, which at the time I was kicking and screaming, but looking back on it, that's probably the best thing that could have happened. So graduated in 1998. Yes, I'm old. I graduated in 1998 from Western Branch.
Woo!
You went to Western Branch?
Sure did.
Yes. Go Bruins.
Woo! Go Bruins.
So with this idea in my head, I love biology, and I said I'm gonna major in biology and I'm gonna go to college. College, not going to college was, my parents, that was not an option, I was going. So that was what was always in my head. And I mention that because depending on your background, where you came from, what your parents have done, they may have ideas about what you need to do. They may encourage you to go down a certain road, but at the end of the day, you gotta pick a road that works for you. That road worked for me. That road doesn't necessarily work for everyone. But for me, that was where I ended up going. So I drove across the state and I went to Virginia Tech. Now, Virginia Tech they were the best 4 years of my life, but I didn't really realize when I started that I needed to have a strategy and a game plan. I needed to sit down from day one, and yes, you want to enjoy your college experience, and I did that because I partied every Friday and Saturday. But I did my work, and I made sure that that was my priority. Because my parents told me, I'm not sending you off to school to go party, I'm sending you off to school to do your work. And that was the priority for me because I knew where I was headed. But I didn't know fully what I needed to do. But I had an idea, so I'm taking my biology classes and I'm going through, and I hit my 3rd year, and I said, okay, I gotta start applying to medical school. Again, no real strategy. And so I'm taking all these classes and I'm studying for my MCAT. Took my first MCAT, and I flopped. MCAT is the medical college admissions test. It is, if you ask any person who is a physician, they will sigh and they will roll their eyes at you because nobody wants to remember taking that test. It's hard. It's a lot of studying. And nobody told me when you're studying for that test, lighten your course load. So because of that, and I was horrible at standardized testing, and I knew it, I didn't do well. Now, let me just say one quick point about that. Standardized testing is something that no matter what field you go into, you're gonna have to do it. And I need you in your mind right now to put a tap in your brain, and you need to tell yourself, I can do anything. Standardized tests, you'll hear, oh, people of color struggle with standardized tests. That is kind of true, but it doesn't have to be the case. If you learn the strategy, you can figure out anything. A lot of the times, we don't know the strategy for various reasons. And so I heard someone say, oh, I'm just not good at standardized testing. I said, that's nonsense. You tell yourself that you're not good at it. But if you really want to dig in and figure out what you need to do, you can do that. Okay? You guys got questions? Yes.
What was it like at Virginia Tech? Because me and my friends, we were planning on going there once we start going to Tech.
Yes. So Virginia Tech is, when I was there were 25,000 students. That's a lot of people. And there were about 1,000 Black folks, which, now let me just tell you, that's my frame of reference. I didn't look up the latest numbers because I do believe they are making a concerted effort to change that landscape. But when I was there were very few of us. So I went through my whole 4 years and I never met the other 2 Black students that were in the program. Right. And then I met them and we're still friends today because of the connection. So the upside of that is I didn't get in much trouble because I ain't have a whole lot of folks to get in trouble with. But I'm gonna get to your question. The downside of that is the support is not as strong as I probably needed. Thankfully, I had good parents and I had a few folks to kind of be around, but I didn't have a lot of faculty that looked like me. I just didn't. And so that makes it more challenging. So to answer your question, Virginia Tech, regardless of that, and I'm gonna just make this point, that even though I didn't have a lot of Black faculty, I had amazing faculty, supportive faculty, people who were out for the cause. So it doesn't, just because somebody looks like you doesn't mean they're in your corner, and just because they don't doesn't mean they're your enemy. Let me just make that clear. But what I would tell you, those were the best times that I had, because I partied a little bit, but I did my work, and it taught me that I can be successful. So it was a great experience. I had excellent training. So when I went to medical school, I was building off what Virginia Tech already taught me. What are you thinking of majoring in? Have you thought of that?
Not yet.
How old are you? Okay.
11.
Oh yeah, you don't have to know that yet. But if you're interested in STEM, that's a great place to go. There's a medical school there now. There's 2 medical schools there now. that weren't there when I was there. Engineering is huge, math is huge, science. When I was there, were cloning mice. My mother gave me an article. That's why Virginia Tech popped on the list, because she said, you want to go into medicine, it's a perfect place for you. So yes, that is an excellent option. My encouragement to you is go see the school on a day when everybody's there and moving around, and you'll really get a good sense. I'm gonna tell you something else about Virginia Tech. It's in the mountains, it gets cold, it snows. So be prepared for that, because we don't get that around here. But the thing that I would tell you, well, we get it, but the whole city shuts down if we get snow. So be prepared for that. But the other thing that I would tell you is, because there were so few of us, as far as like other Black students, the connection, you could walk I would walk to class and I would have people just say hi to me, just because we were acknowledging one another. So that was great. That was great. So what was your question? I'm sorry.
Whenever you felt like demotivated or you wanted to give up, what was something that really pushed you? Like, did your parents motivate you? Like, I have to do this for them, I have to do this for myself, or?
My dad is my biggest cheerleader. I've been very nervous about talking to you guys, because I want to make sure that I'm giving you what's gonna take something home that's gonna inspire you. And he's my cheerleader. He's been my cheerleader my whole life. My mom is not as loud, but in her quiet way, it's my parents really. And even more than them is I put my faith in God, and I pray often, and I ask him to give me guidance and insight. And I'm not being funny on that, that's serious. I do that, because if I don't do that, then I can't go. So I'm saying all this to you to say that my family, my brother, my sister, super supportive of me always. So when I get discouraged, the first thing I do is I call my dad, like, Dad, I want to quit. And I've done that numerous times, more times than I care to tell you. Because some days when you're studying, when you're doing that lab report at 9 p.m. the day before it's due and nothing makes any sense and you feel like quitting, you can't quit. You got to turn your homework in. So my biggest support has been my family, for sure. Okay. So I went through my 4 years at Virginia Tech. I took my MCAT, I applied, I didn't get in, and here I am sitting in senior year like, what am I gonna do? So what I didn't tell you guys is, one of the summers that I was at Virginia Tech, I went to Cleveland and I did a research program. And that program was interesting to me, and the person who I was working with said, when you're done with school, if medical school doesn't work out, you can come back and work. So in 2002, I graduated and I moved up to Cleveland to work in a lab. Lab work is great work for folks. We need it. That's how we get medications. That's how we know how things work in our bodies. But research is not for me, because I love people. And it was driving me crazy every day that I would walk into that lab, that I'm sitting here looking at tubes and I'm in the closet doing different projects. And it was good for me because it taught me how to be methodical. It taught me how to look at details. It taught me how to correct things when I made mistakes, and all that analytical thinking that I need to be a physician every day. It taught me that. But research is not my cup of tea. But I did it because it was almost like a miniature lesson it's one of those detours on the way to becoming a physician. So that's what I did for about a year and a half. And then I got a job as a secretary. And you're gonna say, well, why on earth would you do that? You can go to the next slide. So my plan was, while I was working as a secretary, which was a much easier job because I could answer the phones, I could study at my desk. So I said, I'm gonna go and get a master's. Let me stop that real quick. So I wanted to highlight for you guys some of the lessons I learned after being at Virginia Tech. And I kind of talked about them a little bit, but I just want to hit them because I put them on here. First thing is, find a mentor early. If you know you're interested in nursing, find someone who is in nursing who likes their career and let them help you get there. Let them help you strategize the plan. My brother was in medical school at the time when I was an undergrad. So he didn't spend a whole lot of time educating me about what I needed to do. But I needed a mentor to do that, and I didn't have one. So if you can seek that out, you'll find it. I had great people to advise me, but none of those people were physicians. So finding a mentor early is key so you can strategize from day one. Second is have a plan, come up with a game plan, but plans are meant to be modified. Plans are meant to be adjusted. Plans are not written in concrete. So right now I am working on a business plan because I want my own practice. That's the next on my list of things to do. And just this morning I sat and I added some things to it, and I took some things, moved some things around. And so a plan can always be adjusted. You guys start out thinking that you want to go into, I don't know, OBGYN, and then you change your mind and then you realize you love general surgery. You can always change your mind and do something else. And then finally, learn how to take advice. Not all advice is good advice, right? But the advice that you get has something in it that may be useful. And so don't just discard it because it makes you uncomfortable or you disagree. Let me give you an example. The pre-med advisor at Virginia Tech told me that he didn't know that if I would get into medical school. Now, how does that make you feel when you want to be a doctor? How would you feel if somebody said that to you? Discouraged, broken, feel like you're a waste. And in my head, I'm like, all right, well, what am I going to do? If I'm not a doctor, what am I going to do? And so when he said that to me, I just thought about it. And he said one positive thing. He said, I don't know if you'll do it now, but I think if you stay focused and get a strategy, you can do it. That's all I needed. So maybe it didn't happen for me right then, but you stick at it, you stay at it, and you don't give up on it. Okay, you can go to the next slide. So back to what I was saying about the move to Cleveland. So I got a job as a secretary, and in the process of doing that, I got a master's in anatomy. Now, what was that for? That was because all those classes that they were teaching me when I was at Case Western, that was my first year of medical school right there. So the plan was to go to med school. I needed to make my application look better. So I got a master's degree. So when I went to medical school, all the stuff that we were doing, it was just rehearsal for me. And I was able to kind of focus on it in a different way because I had already been through it. It's all hard. It was a challenge, but it made me ready. And it made me look better to medical school. So when I applied one time, didn't get in, 2 times, didn't get in. By this point, I'm ready to just go off and do something else until my older sister laid into me and almost brought me to tears about how I was a quitter. And I can't do that because that's not what I'm supposed to do. She doesn't even remember that conversation, but I do. And so I said, okay, well, I'm gonna have to sit down and figure this out. So I met a man named Dr. Przybylski. He worked in the anatomy department. And he sat down one day and he said, what is it that you want? And I told him. And he helped me come up with a strategy. He interviewed me like I was going to medical school. He taught me how to make my application look good. He sat on the admissions committee at the school where I worked for medical students. So you see how all these little things align, and then eventually it all starts to work out. So I get my master's, and there was a whole lot of other personal things going on when I lived in Cleveland that had me feeling very depressed, and I almost contemplated moving back home. But if I'd have done that, I think I'd have missed it. Or I'd have missed the opportunity as I had it, which was probably the best thing for me. So what I learned from being in Cleveland, I spent a lot of time by myself. Isolation is not good. So if you find yourself alone, you need to get some form of community. We have Zoom now. We didn't have that a lot. We didn't have it back then. And so we may have had it, but it wasn't popular. And so isolation isn't good. I was in the city by myself. I knew no one. My brother was there. When I got there, he moved away. So it left me by myself. But the good thing about it is that I was forced to get clear about what I wanted. Second thing, detours can be wonderful, but they can be scary. And you don't appreciate them a whole lot because you got a goal in here and you're having some difficulty getting there. And so what I would say to that is try to embrace, if you find yourself on a detour, try to get as much as you can out of it so the experience is not wasted. Finally, help can come from the least likely sources, so remain open-minded. So what I'm going to tell you about Dr. Przybylski, he intended to pay for my medical school applications. He gave me the money for them, and he never asked for it back. And I was sending him checks and trying to pay for it. He never cashed them. So his intent was to pay for my applications. I never asked for that. But his intent was to pay for it, and he did. And had he not done that, I probably would have missed the deadline because I didn't have money for it. And I did not want to ask my parents because I was trying to be a big girl. So, yeah, don't underestimate help. It can come from anywhere. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Finally, in 2006, I graduated in 02, so there was this 4-year period, which I call my dark years. In 2006, I went to Detroit. Never thought in a million years I would have lived in Detroit. But I went there, and it was the best experience. So from 2006 to 2004, I was in medical school. I studied hard. I had a lot of friends, people to encourage. We were all in it together, so we studied together a lot. I would bring breakfast, lunch, and dinner to school because I literally camped out there so I could study. But by this point, I was very focused. And when I initially started out, I thought I wanted pediatrics. And then I met a doctor who did family medicine, and I saw how he gets to do all different types of things on a regular basis, and that was what I fell in love with, and that's what I do today. And I love my job. It's got stressors with it, it's paperwork, it's a lot of typing notes and documentation, and that part I don't love. It's necessary, but I don't love that part, but I love my job. I inspire my patients. I watch high blood pressure that could put someone in a range of having a heart attack. People's blood pressure gets normal, they change their lives, they lose weight, they feel better, they have more energy. The quality of life is better, and I get to do that every day. So, in medical school, and I'm gonna walk you guys kind of through the educational aspects of all the steps, it's long. But if you're going to be writing prescriptions and doing things that can alter people's lives, good or bad, you gotta know what you're doing. So the road is long. But I don't regret it at all. I would do it again if somebody asked me. If I wasn't a doctor now and I knew that's what I wanted, I would do it again. Okay, so top lessons that I learned from my medical school years is that support is essential for success. So you asked me about what do I do when I get discouraged? I had so many days I called my dad. I can't do this. I'm not smart enough to do this. I'm gonna quit. I'm moving home. He said, no, you're not. And you gotta do it. And I hang up the phone and I'm like, well, that didn't help me. But then I realized I can't quit because I want this too bad to quit. And I think all of those years of not getting into medical school and hitting a wall was needed to make me hungry. And at that point, I wasn't gonna quit. Don't believe everything you're told. You vet what you hear and you keep what helps you. So when I was in undergrad, I was told that I would never make it as a doctor. I had one of my advisors when I was getting my master's, I don't think you can finish the program. You'll get in, but you won't finish it. All these negative things. And when you hear, like with everything going on with COVID and health disparities and everything kind of coming out more and more about that, you hear people say, I wanted to go to medical school, but somebody told me I couldn't. Don't believe that. You always, and I'm going to give my information to Ms. Katina, but if you guys decide you want to head down that road, I will help you as best I can to get there. Because if someone does not help you along, sometimes you won't make it. But don't believe what people say, because people always have motives for why they say what they say. Whether it's to break your spirit, whether it is you're doing what they want to do and they look at you as competition, whatever it might be. If that's what you want, you go for it, period. All right. Hard work pays off, but sometimes it's delayed. So did I want those extra 4 years in between undergrad and medical school? No, I did not. I wanted to go straight there so I could live out my dream. But that's not how it happened. But when I got to medical school, I didn't break down as much as I did prior. And then finally, anything worth having, you gotta sacrifice something. So while all my friends were traveling and doing, working and making money, and I'm in school sitting in this cafeteria on yet another Saturday all day long, when I would rather be at home in bed or at home visiting my family, I'm studying for yet another test. But now that I look back on it, it was worth it. I would do it again. All right, you can go to the next one. And then residency. So you do 4 years of medical school. The first year, second year are where you're sitting in a classroom, you're being lectured at, you're given all the information that you need. And then third and fourth years when you hit the floors. You go into the hospitals, you're seeing patients, you're rounding in the hospital, looking at patients. I've delivered babies. I've been in surgeries. I didn't actually do the surgery, but I've been in surgeries. and you just get exposed to every specialty. You learn about what it is you might want to do. And so that's rough. Then when you get to residency, it's just more of the same. Less education where they're sitting and talking to you, but more rotating. I've worked with urologists, dermatologists. Like I said, I delivered a bunch of babies. I have pediatrics. I have my own family medicine clinic, my own patients. So, and as a family doc, you got to get immersed in everything. We know we have a broad scope, but we know we have a certain amount that we know about everything. So a patient comes to me and they have foot trouble, I can treat it, but sometimes they need a specialist. So I have to know when can I fix it and when do they need something else. So that's really what residency, they just have you doing the same thing over and over, kind of beating it into your head until you get it. So the top lessons from residency is learn as much as you can while you can. So right now, I have a 6-year-old daughter, I have a husband, that's a job in and of itself. And so I also have to take care of patients and I have to stay current. Drugs change, new drugs show up on the market, some drugs go away because they cause problems. If I don't keep current and I write the wrong script, I can hurt one of my patients. I can't do that. So you gotta always stay edgy, you gotta read, you gotta be aware of what's going on. Also, it is possible to succeed at the most difficult things. So I had one of my, now that I am out of school, but one of my, she actually delivered my daughter, but she's almost like a mentor to me, and she told me you can do hard things. And I'm telling you guys all, you can do hard things. You gotta break it up, you gotta push through, you gotta get it done. But walking away from this, I have said a whole lot up here, I know. But if you don't hear anything else, I can do hard things. That's what you gotta know, because you can do it. And then finally, there are always good people to support you. So if you ask me to go back to the beginning, I'm not gonna do that. But if you ask me to go back to the beginning, I can walk you through, in this scenario, this person looked out for me. That person looked out for me. All the way through. I didn't do this by myself. I've always had cheerleaders and folks around that always made sure that I was okay. So whatever situation you find yourself in, you will find that support. And don't be afraid to lean on it a little bit. You put your effort in, but when people come alongside to help you, that's great. Take them up on it. Because people don't offer help if they don't want to do it, typically. Okay. You guys have questions?
I do, Doc.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering if you have a resident experience that just every time you think about it, you're like, that was the most like potent, if you could share with us.
Yeah. So one of my attendings used to take care of a family. And in that family, there were a lot of social issues. Now let me just phrase that by saying, before I chose family medicine, I thought I was this close to choosing psychiatry. Because I like people, I like talking to them, I like loving on folks and hearing how people are doing and kind of keeping up with them. There was a family, and I can't remember the details, but something had happened and they needed to talk to the doctor because the young lady was having some emotional problems, severe emotional problems. Like they were concerned about suicidal thoughts. They didn't want to take her to the hospital. And so my attending was supposed to see her. And he says to me, "Hey, Nicole, I got a patient I need you to see." Now, I'm thinking in that instance, why are you asking me? Why don't you go see the patient? Because this is serious and I'm just a resident. And so they put that person on my schedule and I sat and I saw that patient. And we had a counselor in the office at the time, and she came into the visit later to offer additional support. But at the time, I felt like I am not qualified to do this. And you have put me in a situation and I don't know what to do. And so I sat with this young lady, and because of that experience, every time they came in and their doctor wasn't available, they wanted me. And I took care of the whole entire family. So what that taught me was, I can do this. And even though it's hard, you get equipped over time. Residency is repetition. I have a thing for psych. So even now when I see my patients for their blood pressure or for diabetes, I'm asking them, how are you doing? And a lot of the times, believe it or not, people break down, especially in the pandemic. People break down and they'll tell you their deepest, darkest things that they would never tell anyone. So as a doctor, when you can come in and talk to and kind of lay it out there and put your frustrations on the table and you don't get judged, I'm not ready to, tell you to just pick yourself up and you'll be okay. I don't do that. I listen to them because I know what it's like to feel misunderstood, to feel lonely, to feel like you can't go anymore. I know how that feels. So now as a doctor, I give that to my patients. So that was probably one of the best experiences that I've had. And it stuck in me that being a doctor is more than about writing scripts and writing notes and telling folks take more blood pressure medication and watch your diet. All those things are important. But it's also about my just caring about people at a basic level. And if you do that, people will tell you everything. And you don't have to guess why Ms. Jones is not taking her insulin. Because you know she's not taking her insulin because she can't get to the store to pick up her medication because the son that she had moved out of town and then she doesn't have support. So now you can support her properly. I do that all day. All right, next slide. So what does it take to become a physician? I'm gonna walk you guys through this very briefly. So pre-med. So as we talked before, 4 years of undergraduate education where you get all your prerequisites, the organic chemistry, general chemistry, physics, high-level biology, all of those things you have to get so that you can be prepared to go to med school. Then, after you hit your prerequisites and you do all the requirements, you go to medical school for 4 years. First 2 years are basically lecture with some clinical, and then the third or fourth year are the exact opposite. Mostly clinical with less lecture. I personally enjoyed the third and fourth year better than the first and the second, because sitting in one spot listening to somebody talk for a long time is challenging. And I'm a doer. So while you're in between the first and second year, you take step one of the boards. So you have to pass 3 exams to be able to get your license in the United States. So you take the first one, the hardest test I've ever taken in my life, that one. But again, you get a strategy, you get up in the morning, you have a routine, you sit down, I prayed, I said, God, you gotta help me. I need some divine intervention because this is hard. This is when I realized I can take standardized tests. Nobody can tell me I can't pass a standardized test. So when I passed my boards, I didn't just squeak by. I did well because I had a strategy and I knew where I was falling short. So that's why I tell you guys, if anybody tells you you don't test well, that's nonsense because you need a strategy. Once you get a strategy, it's done after that point. So years 3 and 4, you're mostly in the clinical setting. And then you take step 2. Step 2 is easier because you're already learning how to think clinically. So for step 1, we say 2 months of study. For step 2, we say 2 weeks of study. And then for step 3, we say 2 pencils. So you just walk in and take it. I wouldn't recommend that. But it gets easier is my point. Then step 2, you graduate from medical school, then you go off to residency. So for me, I did 3 years after, which is a long haul. But when I hit that clinic the first day of my job, I was ready. I knew what I was doing. And some things I hit that were difficult, but I knew how to think through it. So then you do, so they call them PGY1, postgraduate year 1 after med school, 1 through 3, depending on what you choose. My brother did a 5-year residency. If you're OBGYN, you do a 4-year. And then if you want to specialize, you do a fellowship, which is additional training. And then you go to work. You got to get board certified, so you take another exam. We do a lot of testing because you don't want your doctor not knowing what you need to know. So I didn't love that part. But after I hit step 1, I said I could take a test. I just need to have a strategy and I need to have time. And once you do that, you can get through what you need to get through. All right, next slide, please. So we talk a little bit about what I do. I see patients. I see roughly between 20 and 25 patients a day. I do mostly primary care. I do some urgent care. So these are people who may not be a part of the clinic, but they have an issue that day. They have an acute issue pop up like a cold or urinary tract infection. They come in, we treat them. But mostly with family medicine is, they're my family. I love on everybody. I try to hug my patients, even in COVID. If somebody's crying, you're getting a hug from me. I just had to ask God to help me because I'm not doing it. So so I do that all day, and I love my job. Even on the worst day when I'm tired and frustrated, I can still go in and care about my patients and do what needs to be done. So you guys, and in addition to seeing the patients, we have to review lab results. I sign a lot of paperwork. I answer a lot of questions over the phone. Patients can email me questions, so I'm kind of doing that throughout the course of the day. It's busy, but I love it. It's almost like a rush every day. All right, last slide. Who are these people? I don't know. These are random folks. So I'm not gonna point them all out. Well, maybe I will. The one on the far end with the long hair, that's Dr. Lakeisha Richards. She's an ophthalmologist. She works in Richmond, and she specializes in oculoplastics. So if the muscles around your eyes aren't working, she can fix that. The one next to her is Ashley Haynes. Ashley Haynes was an LPN that worked with me, and now she's an RN, and she's planning on going to school to be a nurse practitioner. The picture below that is Viola. Viola works in my office now. She just passed her NCLEX. She's an RN now, and she struggled, but she got it. The one next to her is Dr. Julia Stevenson. She owns Cardinal Plastic Surgery. She's a plastic surgeon who owns her practice. The next one next to her, one of my BFFs, that's Megan. Dr. Megan Lewis is an ER doc in Maryland. The one next to her is Erica Huddleston. She's a family doctor like me. The one next to her is Sade O'Rourke. Sade owns a counseling practice in Newport News. She has 3 counselors that work for her. She writes books. She does lectures, all kinds of things to help you help yourself and feel good about who you are. She's a licensed professional counselor. The picture up top, that's Melody. Melody is a nurse. She's a 4-year degree nurse. And the one next to her is Amber Standback, or Amber Copeland now. She's married. She's a nurse practitioner. She worked with me, and I trained her for many, many years. And she left me, but we all gotta grow. The one below her is Candace Hughes. Candace Hughes works for GenCare. She too is a family physician. If you look at these people, they have something in common with you, don't they? Yes. What you take from this slide, this is possible. All of them have a story. All of them have had some degree of struggle. All of them. And now they walk in their calling profession every day. Next slide. And this is just real quick, I'm almost done. I just wanted to put a slide on here because I'm a physician, but that's not all medicine has to offer. There's physician's assistants, there's nurse practitioners, there's respiratory therapists, occupational therapists, physical therapists. There's some people go into administration. The folks running your hospitals and clinics. They work in healthcare. They provide more of the administrative support. There's pharmacists and dietitians and nutritionists, and you see all the options. So you don't have to be a physician to be in medicine, but whatever you do, whatever you pick, love it. Because even on your worst day, you can go into work, and I find my stressors, if I brought them in with me, they melt away. First patient, I don't even think about that stuff anymore because I'm more focused on taking care of my patient and doing what I've been put on this earth to do. So I hope you guys have learned a little bit about medicine and you are feeling inspired to go do whatever it is you want. I'm not an engineer. My brain doesn't work like that. I have plenty of friends that are engineers. Whatever you do, whether it's math, technology, science, the options are endless. You guys can do what you want. But I wanted to share my story with you because there's no scenario where everything is perfect and you just kind of go through and don't have any challenges. And when they come, you got to either go through them, go around them, ask somebody to give you a lift, whatever you got to do. But you got to make it your business to get there. I don't regret my choices at all. So I hope you guys have been inspired by my story and that you guys have learned something today. And if I can be of any help, please ask Ms. Katina and she can put us in touch. Thank you so much for listening.
Let's give it up for that.